Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. We are again back with the 2-pawn endgame series. This is our 7th video in the series of 2-pawn endgame. If you want to check out the previous 6 video which is related to either king's activity after promotion under pass, I will share you the link in the description box. Today we are discussing a very common endgame concept that is called Reti endgame, or you can say the multi-purpose move. Before starting this position, I want to emphasize that it's challenging to visualize this position before practicing on the board. If someone can do this without prior practice, he or she either a grandmaster or on the way to becoming one. However, if you practice this properly, you can solve it. This position will help you to understand the concept of multi-purpose move, what is the potential of the multi-purpose move, and how you can apply that on the board. So without further ado, let's start that position on the board. Look at this position. If you observe this position for the first time, it's white to play and white pawn is moving upward and black pawn is moving downward. In the first appearance, it obviously look like that white king is behind the black pawn. Even if it's white to play, next move, what white can max do it, go to the h7, and he will not able to stop the black pawn if black continuing marching towards the promotion. The second idea is white pawn on the c6 square. Because black king is inside the square, so white pawn will not be able to promote at any cost. So that's where the concept of multi-purpose move will start. Before explaining what are the correct move in this position, let me tell you this. In this position, you have to go diagonally. So to explain why we want to go to the g7 to travel diagonally, the idea is very simple. If you want to go to the h7 square, in the first case, you try to stop the pawn promotion. So for that, you will go to the h7. Then black actually move its king to the b6, try to capture your pawn. At that time, you decide to go to the g7 square to support your pawn. Actually, in reality, you are not able to do it. But if you are going it, then actually you travel 2 squares to reach to the g7 square. But instead of that, if you traveling across the diagonal, so from the h8 square, if you immediately go to the g7 square, you are actually traveling across the diagonal. And by going to the g7, you are doing both the things simultaneously. Try to capture the black pawn and try to create support for your own pawn. Imagine a case that black decided to move its pawn to the h4. Now you again go diagonal with king to f6. This does look surprising you, but now if black continues pushing his pawn to the h3, you will not able to stop the black pawn. So you reroute your king to the e7, and now both black and white is just 2 square away from the pawn promotion. So if black goes to the h2, you push your pawn to the c7, pawn black will promote, so the white will promote. Of course, you promote with the check, but king can slide anywhere. Both the queens are on the board, so the game will end up as a draw. So what you exactly did this in case to try to understand the multi-purpose move properly, you didn't follow any of the idea. You just travel across the diagonal. So any given time, first you go to the g7, pawn to h4, and then you shift to the f6. So now from the f6, you are actually 2 square away from both the sides, either to support your pawn or you can ready to capture the black's pawn. Both the sides are just 2 square away. In this case, black pushes his pawn to the h3, so you divert your king to the e7 and go for the pawn support. And so when you are on the f6, black move its king to the b6 to capture the white pawn. This time, again, it will become very interesting. You will not go to the g5. You will not go to the e6, because if you try to go to the e6 or the e7, you know that black can easily capture the white pawn, and after that, white will not able to stop the black's promotion. So again, you follow the same concept of the multi-purpose move and you will shift your king to the e5. That does surprise you. But after that, if black king takes the pawn, we'll shift our king to the f4. And now you can clearly see white can easily stop the black. White can easily capture the black's pawn and can stop the pawn promotion. And if after that, when king is on the e5, if black again decided to push his pawn to the h3, this time you will not try to chase the black pawn because you will not able to do it. You will simply shift your king to the d6. Now again you can see both the pawn is 2 square away from the pawn promotion, pawn to h2, pawn to c7, and now black will promote. So after that, white will promote. Both the queens are on the board. There is no immediate threat of skewering or anything. So the game will end up as a draw. Let's again go back the same position. In this case, we travel across the diagonal from h8 to g7. We try to accomplish both the things together, try to stop the pawn and try to support the pawn. And in this case, we observe that first black start pushing his pawn. Then if we keep on pushing that pawn, then we'll divert our king and go for the pawn support. Let's discuss the case after king to g7. What if black will jump on the b6 square, try to capture your pawn? We still go to the diagonal path with king to f6. If, as we discussed, if black takes the pawn, we will go to the g5, and now we can easily capture the black's pawn, and the game will end up again as a draw because there are only two kings on the board. So from the beginning, it looks like impossible for white to win this position, and actually it is not a winning position for the white, but it is a draw. That's all for today's video. If you like our work, please do subscribe to our channel for more informative video related to chess.